High-ranking military officials now admit 3I Atlas may not be what it seems, but something far more terrifying.
My name is Jeffrey Nusatelli. I'm a former military police officer with 16 years of active duty service in the U.S. Air Force. I'm here today because the American people have both the right and the responsibility to know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomenon. That truth remains hidden, classified, and silenced by fear, retaliation, stigma, and confusion. Today, we are here to help break that silence.
NASA's latest revelation has sent shockwaves through the scientific community and the general public alike. The mysterious interstellar object designated 3I/Atlas, already an enigmatic wanderer from beyond our solar system, has reportedly changed its trajectory in a way no one anticipated. For months, astronomers had tracked this cosmic traveler with caution but little immediate concern. It appeared to be another visitor like Oumuamua or Borisov, a rare interstellar body merely passing through, destined to exit our system after a brief but fascinating encounter. But new data has confirmed something that changes everything. 3I/Atlas is no longer simply passing by. It has altered its course, and that course may now be headed directly toward Earth. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The possibility of an interstellar object shifting trajectory to intersect Earth's orbit is not just extraordinary, it defies much of what scientists assumed about such bodies. Objects originating from outside our solar system typically travel on hyperbolic paths, unaffected by the gravitational pull of planets except for brief deflections. Yet 3I/Atlas seems to have experienced a perturbation powerful enough to redirect it. Whether this change was caused by gravitational interactions with Jupiter, the Sun, or something far more mysterious, the implications are staggering. The reality now facing humanity is that this object, which may be several kilometers wide, could be on a collision course with our planet. The scale of the threat is almost impossible to exaggerate. Even a relatively modest asteroid from within our solar system can cause devastating regional or global effects, as history has shown. The Chicxulub impactor, only about 10 kilometers in diameter, ended the reign of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. 3I/Atlas, whose dimensions remain under intense study, may rival or exceed that scale. And unlike known near-Earth objects that are mapped and monitored, this one has approached from interstellar space, giving far less warning. The sudden trajectory shift has reduced preparation time to almost nothing, thrusting humanity into a state of unprecedented urgency. Astronomers across the globe are poring over the latest observations with feverish intensity. Telescopes, both ground-based and orbital, are now locked onto 3I/Atlas to refine models of its trajectory. Supercomputers are running simulations to determine not only the probability of impact, but also the possible location on Earth where such an event might occur. Each refinement of data has so far narrowed rather than expanded the possibilities, with results continuing to point toward an alarming conclusion. The risk of impact is no longer negligible. The mystery of why 3I/Atlas changed direction continues to dominate discussions. Gravitational explanations are possible, but difficult to reconcile with the suddenness of the shift. Some scientists suggest that volatile materials within the body may have sublimated, creating jets that acted like thrusters to nudge its path. Others argue that such outgassing should have been visible and more gradual, not abrupt. Theories range from hidden internal processes to exotic possibilities tied to the unique nature of interstellar bodies. Whatever the cause, the reality is that a celestial object from beyond our system is now possibly aimed at us, and the debate over mechanism does little to lessen the urgency of the threat. In terms of implications, humanity now confronts the very scenario long confined to disaster planning exercises and speculative fiction. Unlike regional threats such as earthquakes, tsunamis, or volcanic eruptions, a direct collision with an interstellar body has global stakes. The sheer energy release would dwarf anything in recorded human history. Upon atmospheric entry, the object would convert its kinetic energy into shock waves, heat, and seismic disturbances powerful enough to ignite wildfires, trigger tsunamis, and plunge the planet into a darkness as dust and debris cloud the skies. While the aftermath remains outside the scope of immediate discussion, The looming potential alone redefines the stakes for every government, scientist, and citizen. Governments and space agencies are scrambling to convene emergency sessions. NASA, ESA, and other international organizations are considering options once thought purely hypothetical. Deflection missions, nuclear interventions, or last-minute kinetic impactors, ideas that have circulated in planetary defense conferences, are suddenly matters of survival. Yet the challenge is compounded by the object's interstellar origin and velocity. Unlike typical near-Earth asteroids that orbit the Sun in predictable cycles, 3I/Atlas is moving at extreme speeds. Intercepting it requires technologies that may not yet exist or that are still in experimental stages. The geopolitical ramifications of this revelation are equally profound. Nations that once competed for dominance in space exploration are now faced with a shared existential threat. Tensions over resources, territory, and ideology may have to give way to unprecedented cooperation if humanity is to have any chance at survival. The event forces a reconsideration of priorities, shifting focus away from terrestrial disputes toward the reality that the planet itself may be in jeopardy. Scientists emphasize that only collective effort, pooled resources, and rapid decision-making can mount any meaningful response. Meanwhile, public awareness is spreading at lightning speed. News networks, social media, and every form of communication are ablaze with discussions of 3I/Atlas. The knowledge that a foreign visitor from interstellar space is not merely passing by, but potentially colliding with Earth captures imaginations in both awe and dread. People are grappling with the scale of the situation, struggling to comprehend the enormity of what this means. For generations, the night sky has been a symbol of wonder, a realm of exploration. Now it is also a source of looming peril. For scientists, the discovery highlights both the brilliance and the limitations of current planetary defense strategies. Programs like NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office have long warned of potential threats from space. Early warning systems, sky surveys, and simulations exist to track asteroids and comets. Yet the appearance of 3I/Atlas underscores a glaring vulnerability. Interstellar objects are inherently difficult to predict. They appear suddenly, move at immense speeds, and often defy detection until they are relatively close. Humanity has spent decades preparing for threats within the solar system, but the galaxy has proven to be less predictable. The symbolism of an interstellar collision is not lost on anyone. Humanity has always looked outward, searching for signs of life, inspiration, and possibility. The arrival of 3I/Atlas seemed at first to be another reminder of our cosmic neighborhood's vastness. But the transformation of that visitor into a potential harbinger of doom forces a shift in perception. The cosmos is not merely a place of discovery, it is also a realm of immense dangers, indifferent to human aspirations or survival. As the object continues its approach, every fraction of data matters. Observatories are coordinating across continents, sharing updates in real time. Radio telescopes are monitoring for any unusual emissions, though so far none have been detected. Spacecraft already orbiting Earth and beyond may be retasked to gather imagery, spectra, and telemetry. Each new measurement refines the models, but the looming possibility of collision remains. Scientists are careful with their words, but the gravity of the situation is unmistakable. For many, the event has sparked philosophical and existential reflection. What does it mean for humanity to face such a threat, one that comes not from our own divisions or errors, but from the vast, uncontrollable universe? The sense of fragility becomes overwhelming. Our species has thrived, built civilizations, and reached into space, but the cosmos reminds us that we remain vulnerable. The potential end of humanity is not an abstract idea, but a calculated risk unfolding before our eyes. Amid the uncertainty, hope persists in the ingenuity and resilience that have defined human progress. Engineers and scientists are brainstorming ideas at breakneck speed. Could a spacecraft be launched in time to alter the object's trajectory even by a fraction of a degree? Could nuclear devices deliver enough force to nudge it away from Earth without fracturing it into multiple destructive fragments? Could new propulsion concepts, once considered too experimental, suddenly become humanity's last hope? These questions dominate the halls of research centers and government agencies. Yet the clock is relentless. Every passing day brings 3I/Atlas closer. Each failed or inconclusive simulation heightens the urgency. While the public looks skyward with apprehension, the scientific community understands that the window for action is narrowing rapidly. The collision probability may not yet be confirmed at 100%, but the mere possibility, backed by mounting evidence, is enough to warrant the full mobilization of human capability. 3I/Atlas, once an astronomical curiosity, has now become a defining element of human history. Its altered trajectory challenges everything we thought we knew about interstellar objects and planetary defense. It reveals both our vulnerability and our potential, forcing humanity to confront its place in the universe with sobering clarity. What began as another cosmic visitor has now transformed into a looming force of nature, one that could bring an end to the story of humanity on Earth. This revelation has bound every nation, every individual, into a shared moment of destiny. The cosmos has delivered a challenge unlike any before, one that transcends borders, ideologies, and ambitions. As the world watches 3I/Atlas continue its silent, relentless approach, the implications echo louder than any alarm. The universe is vast, unpredictable, and sometimes merciless, and humanity now stands at the edge of a confrontation with forces far beyond its control. The revelation about 3I/Atlas has brought humanity into an unprecedented confrontation with the unknown. And while the initial shock of its trajectory change shook the world, the deeper layers of its implications are only now being understood. Every day that passes sharpens the picture, not only of the object itself, but also of the profound vulnerabilities of the species that calls Earth home. At the core of this revelation lies the unique nature of interstellar visitors. Unlike comets and asteroids native to our solar system, which can often be traced back to familiar reservoirs like the Kuiper Belt or Oort cloud, interstellar objects are strangers. They arrive without warning, bearing chemical signatures forged under alien suns and shaped by environments utterly unlike our own. 3I/Atlas is not simply a rock wandering into our backyard. It is a messenger from a distant region of the galaxy, carrying in its composition the record of a history that predates Earth itself. The tragedy is that instead of marveling at its scientific value, we now face the terrifying reality of its destructive potential. The process of studying such an object has always been fraught with difficulty. Observations rely on faint light reflecting from its surface, requiring vast telescopes working in perfect coordination. Unlike spacecraft missions that can rendezvous with nearby asteroids or comets, interstellar objects often travel too quickly to permit interception. This has left scientists with little more than spectra and motion curves to work with. In the case of 3I/Atlas, those limitations proved critical. Early data suggested it would pass harmlessly through the solar system, and resources were diverted to other pressing matters. But as its trajectory shifted, the margin for error narrowed. The scientific community now finds itself racing against time, piecing together every fragment of information before it is too late. The object's speed is one of the most daunting aspects of this challenge. Unlike native asteroids that orbit the Sun at velocities between 20 and 40 kilometers per second, 3I/Atlas is hurtling forward at nearly double those rates. At such speeds, the kinetic energy of a potential impact becomes staggering. The destructive force of an object is proportional to its mass, and the square of its velocity, meaning even modest increases in speed, can exponentially amplify the devastation. The numbers being calculated in laboratories across the globe are so immense that even hardened researchers find themselves pausing in disbelief. The chemistry of the object adds another dimension of uncertainty. Interstellar bodies often display unusual properties not seen in local comets or asteroids. Some exhibit strange reflectivity, while others harbor exotic ice mixtures or carbon-rich compounds. If 3I/Atlas carries volatile materials within it, its behavior as it nears the Sun could become erratic. Outgassing jets might shift its trajectory unpredictably, complicating impact predictions. Worse still, if the object fragments, multiple impacts could occur across different regions of the planet, multiplying the devastation. Each possibility forces planners to draft new scenarios, each more complex and unnerving than the last. The scientific pursuit of knowledge collides here with the urgency of defense. Under normal circumstances, 3I/Atlas would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study the building blocks of alien star systems. Teams would be preparing papers, debating its origins, and marveling at the window it opened into the galaxy's diversity. Instead, telescopes that might have been used for leisurely exploration are now pressed into service as instruments of survival, measuring trajectories with agonizing precision. The irony is bitter. The very curiosity that drives exploration must now serve the desperate purpose of avoiding annihilation. Meanwhile, the possibility of deflection is being examined with intensity. Kinetic impactors, once considered the most straightforward option, are nearly impossible to deploy given the timeframes and velocities involved. To alter the path of 3I/Atlas, an impactor would need to reach it well in advance of its Earth intersection, imparting a small but critical nudge. The object's speed means intercepting it requires incredible propulsion capacity, and humanity simply does not have rockets capable of delivering such payloads on such short notice. Nuclear options present another avenue, but the risks are immense. A poorly executed detonation could fracture the object, scattering fragments that still retain enough velocity to cause catastrophic damage. The science of planetary defense, long discussed in theoretical terms, now finds itself confronted by a real-life challenge for which it is ill-prepared. The geopolitical consequences of this crisis are equally staggering. For decades, space exploration has been shaped by competition. Nations vied for prestige, resources, and influence, with cooperation often hampered by suspicion. The sudden arrival of 3I/Atlas threatens to sweep those rivalries aside in the face of extinction. Already, emergency summits are being held, bringing together leaders from rival nations who only weeks ago would have hesitated to share intelligence or resources. The survival of humanity overrides questions of sovereignty, but centuries of mistrust cannot be erased overnight. The balance between cooperation and self-preservation teeters uneasily as the clock ticks forward. Public reaction has also evolved beyond the initial wave of panic. The sheer strangeness of the situation, an interstellar visitor altering its path toward Earth, has inspired both awe and terror. Philosophers, theologians, and artists are struggling to interpret what this means for the human story. Is this event a random tragedy of cosmic proportions, or does it carry some deeper significance about humanity's place in the universe? The enormity of the threat blurs the lines between scientific discourse and existential reflection, forcing billions to reckon with questions usually confined to late-night musings or academic debate. In classrooms and universities, the next generation is grappling with the idea that their futures may be radically altered by forces beyond human control. Young scientists, once inspired by the possibilities of exploration, now find themselves thrust into a battle against time. Some see it as a call to action, a chance to prove that humanity's ingenuity can rise to any challenge. Others struggle under the weight of dread, uncertain whether their efforts can make a difference. The psychological burden of the revelation is becoming a crisis in its own right, as people everywhere attempt to live their daily lives under the shadow of potential doom. The technical side of preparations continues to advance in parallel. Space agencies are re-examining every tool at their disposal. Existing satellites may be reprogrammed to provide data on the object's albedo, spin, and mass. Deep space probes, originally designed for scientific missions, are being considered for emergency redirection to gather close-range imagery. Engineers are revisiting designs for propulsion systems that had been shelved for lack of funding or feasibility. Concepts like solar sails, nuclear pulse drives, or directed energy systems are being dusted off and evaluated in the desperate hope that anything, could be scaled up in time. The astronomical community is equally focused on narrowing down the impact probabilities. With each observation, orbital models are refined, but the margin of uncertainty remains a torment. A 90% probability of impact is almost unthinkable, but even a 10% chance would demand extraordinary measures. The object's path is a tightrope of terror, each tiny correction of data swaying the predictions between devastation and relief. Scientists are working around the clock, knowing that clarity will come only when time has nearly run out. The larger lesson dawning on humanity is the fragility of existence in a cosmic context. For all the technological marvels of civilization, cities that glow with electricity, networks that span continents, spacecraft that traverse the void, the species remains vulnerable to the indifferent violence of the universe. This recognition forces a re-evaluation of priorities. Investments in planetary defense, long considered marginal, now seem woefully inadequate. Calls are growing for the creation of permanent multinational institutions dedicated solely to defending the planet against celestial threats. The hope is that if 3I/Atlas can be survived, the crisis will galvanize humanity into ensuring such vulnerability is never repeated. Yet even as these discussions unfold, the relentless march of time continues. The object grows brighter in the night sky, visible to the naked eye in certain regions, a chilling reminder of its approach. Amateur astronomers report its eerie glow, describing it as both beautiful and terrifying. Families gather in backyards, pointing upward with a mixture of wonder and fear, knowing that the light in the sky may represent the end of all they have ever known. The juxtaposition of its celestial beauty with its deadly potential only deepens the surreal quality of the moment. The global economy has also begun to feel the strain. Markets fluctuate wildly as investors react to the possibility of catastrophe. Industries tied to defense, aerospace, and energy surge as governments pour resources into emergency projects. Meanwhile, consumer confidence plummets in sectors tied to long-term stability. Insurance companies, financial institutions, and corporations are forced to reckon with risks that cannot be quantified or mitigated by traditional means. The uncertainty infects every level of human activity, reshaping decisions from individual households to multinational corporations. Communication networks play a vital role in shaping the narrative of the crisis. Some voices call for calm, urging the public to trust in science and international cooperation. Others exploit fear, spreading rumors of conspiracies or hidden agendas. The information war becomes almost as intense as the scientific one, with truth and speculation colliding in a chaotic flood. Managing the flow of information becomes critical, as panic could paralyze efforts just as much as the object itself. The cultural dimensions of the event are equally striking. Religions interpret 3I/Atlas through their own lenses, some seeing it as a test, others as a sign, still others as divine punishment or warning. Literature, film, and art are being produced at a pace never before seen, as creators attempt to capture the emotional and symbolic resonance of a world facing potential obliteration. Human imagination, always quick to respond to the unknown, now channels its creativity into both despair and defiance. Meanwhile, the natural world continues unaffected by the dread filling human hearts. The oceans rise and fall with the tides, forests sway in the wind, and creatures go about their lives unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding overhead. This contrast between human anxiety and nature's indifference serves as a haunting reminder of how small humanity's place is in the grand scheme. The Earth itself has endured countless impacts before, reshaping continents and resetting life. To the planet, 3I/Atlas is not a tragedy, but simply another event in the endless churn of cosmic history. The question of origin continues to intrigue even in the face of danger. Where did 3I/Atlas come from? What star system cast it loose into the interstellar gulf? How long has it been traveling, and what cosmic forces sculpted its shape and trajectory? These questions may never be answered if the object fulfills its destructive potential, yet they hang in the background, tantalizing humanity with the reminder that the galaxy is full of wanderers, some of which may already be on their way. The prospect of more interstellar objects arriving in the future makes the current crisis not just an isolated event, but a harbinger of broader cosmic vulnerability. The continued observation of 3I/Atlas has become not only a scientific priority, but the centerpiece of global awareness, as humanity confronts something it has never truly faced before. An undeniable external force with the potential to erase everything. Each night, as astronomers record its glow inching across the sky, more is revealed. And with every revelation, the picture becomes both clearer and more harrowing. The object is unlike anything Earth has known in living memory, not only because of its interstellar origin, but also because of the way it challenges assumptions that have long shaped our understanding of celestial mechanics and planetary security. One of the most unsettling aspects of 3I/Atlas is the question of scale. Though estimates vary, early calculations suggest that it could measure anywhere from several kilometers in diameter to potentially over a dozen. The uncertainty stems from the difficulty of measuring an object that reflects only faint amounts of sunlight and emits no intrinsic glow. Its surface appears unusually dark, with an albedo lower than most asteroids, suggesting a carbon-rich composition or a crust weathered by countless millennia in interstellar space. The darker the object, the less reflective it is and the harder it becomes to gauge size with confidence. This ambiguity forces scientists to model a wide range of impact scenarios, from those resembling the dinosaur extinction event to outcomes far more catastrophic. Beyond its physical dimensions, the nature of its structure raises troubling questions. Some researchers argue that it might not be a single coherent rock, but a rubble pile object, a loose aggregation of boulders and dust bound together weakly by gravity. If this is the case, any attempt to deflect or disrupt it could shatter it into multiple dangerous fragments, each capable of causing devastation on its own. On the other hand, if it is a monolithic block of dense metal or stone, the sheer force required to nudge it off course may be beyond current human capability. The uncertainty about its interior composition magnifies the difficulty of devising a strategy, turning every proposed solution into a gamble with planetary stakes. The strangeness of its trajectory shift continues to inspire theories. Some astrophysicists have suggested that gravitational slingshot effects around giant planets like Jupiter or Saturn may have subtly altered its path before it was noticed. Others argue that thermal outgassing is a likelier explanation, though such activity should leave detectable signatures, such as jets or comine, which so far remain elusive. More radical hypotheses even propose interactions with exotic matter or magnetic anomalies encountered during its interstellar voyage. While these explanations strain credibility, the unusual circumstances surrounding the event give them more attention than they would otherwise receive. The unsettling truth is that no consensus exists on why this body has changed direction. And in science, such absence of certainty is itself alarming. As the object approaches, the question of impact timing becomes critical. Current predictions suggest a potential collision within the span of a few years or even sooner, depending on refinements in trajectory data. Such a compressed timeline leaves little room for preparation. Unlike the centuries of warning that might be available if a long-period comet were identified on a collision course, 3I/Atlas offers a window so narrow that humanity must act almost immediately if it hopes to mount a defense. Missions that might normally require a decade of planning and testing must now be compressed into months, pushing technology, engineering, and human resolve to their absolute limits. One fascinating yet sobering element of the crisis is the way it reframes humanity's relationship with space. For generations, outer space has been a frontier of curiosity, adventure, and aspiration. Satellites orbiting the Earth, rovers traversing Mars, probes crossing into interstellar space, all of these achievements symbolized humanity's progress. Now, the vastness of space has revealed itself as a source of mortal danger, reminding humanity that it is not the master of its destiny in the cosmos, but a fragile tenant. The dream of colonization, of spreading to other worlds, suddenly feels more urgent, as people recognize how precarious it is to rest the entire fate of civilization on a single planet vulnerable to a single impact. This recognition has sparked renewed interest in planetary migration theories. Could humanity one day relocate in the face of such threats? Could self-sustaining colonies on the Moon or Mars serve as insurance policies against extinction? While such ideas inspire imagination, the harsh reality is that even the most advanced plans for off-world settlements remain decades away from feasibility. The technologies are immature, the resources staggering, and the social will inconsistent. 3I/Atlas exposes this vulnerability with brutal clarity. If humanity had spread across multiple worlds, its survival would not hinge so precariously on the defense of a single planet. The cultural impact of 3I/Atlas continues to spread through every layer of society. In cities, art installations depict the object looming in the sky, often portrayed as a black mass blotting out the stars. Musicians compose symphonies of urgency and sorrow, capturing the tension of a species that may be standing on its final threshold. Writers craft novels and essays exploring not only the physical implications, but also the psychological and moral dimensions of confronting oblivion. Film studios race to create visual representations of what scientists describe, blending fiction and reality in ways that both alarm and captivate audiences. For the first time in modern history, the global imagination is synchronized around a singular celestial event, weaving together a tapestry of fear, creativity, and solidarity. In scientific circles, the challenge has ignited a level of collaboration previously thought impossible. Data from telescopes in Chile, Hawaii, Spain, and South Africa are pooled seamlessly with results from observatories orbiting Earth. Private companies that once pursued commercial spaceflight for profit now offer their resources for planetary defense, lending engineers, rockets, and manufacturing capacity. Universities throw open their labs to international colleagues, fostering an unprecedented spirit of unity in pursuit of a singular goal: understanding and addressing the threat posed by 3I/Atlas. The barriers of nationality and language shrink under the weight of existential urgency, proving that when survival is at stake, humanity can transcend its divisions. The economic landscape continues to transform under the strain. Entire industries pivot to serve the needs of planetary defense. Aerospace firms abandon commercial satellite launches in favor of constructing experimental interceptors. Nuclear agencies, once focused on deterrence and energy, are repurposed to explore options for asteroid deflection. Governments allocate staggering sums, dwarfing previous space exploration budgets, in a last-ditch effort to prepare for the possibility of intervention. Yet even with all this mobilization, experts admit privately that the odds are daunting. The scale of what must be accomplished in such a short time is almost beyond imagination, and failure is a possibility that none dare articulate publicly. The psychological dimension of the crisis deepens each day. Mental health professionals report rising anxiety, depression, and existential dread across populations. People wrestle with questions that defy easy answers. How to live when the future itself is uncertain? How to make sense of daily routines under the shadow of a cosmic threat? How to raise children with the knowledge that their lives may be cut short by forces beyond human control? In some places, communities turn to ritual and spirituality, gathering in vigils, prayers, or meditations under the night sky. In others, the response is more secular but no less profound as people find comfort in art, philosophy, or simply in one another's presence. The human spirit, tested to its limits, adapts in myriad ways. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on 3I/Atlas changing direction toward Earth? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.